This is the fourth letter, and so far, they all share something strange. Not a single one has a postal mark, and every single one was hidden. But this one was signed, Margaret Bellows. What bothers me isn't what the letter says, it's the name, because it shows up in an old Bell Hollow County record. A woman who claimed to have seen her brother return 40 years after he vanished. But according to those same records, she died before she could have written this. Jack, you said these letters came with the house, but this one, it looks like it was written yesterday. The ink's barely faded, the handwriting is clean, sharp, and what she describes, it doesn't match anything that makes sense. Do you know who Margaret Bellows was?
Margaret Bellows. Now there's a name I haven't heard in a long while. She lived at the end of that dusty road that used to lead to the dry lake, had a blind old dog, 2 cracked windows, and a brother who never came back from the barn. See boy, time's a kind of river. Flows forward, sure, but every now and then, it slips down into a hole somewhere, and when it does, what comes back out ain't always the same as what went in.
But she died before she could have written this, Jack.
Some folks write things long before their time, Dave, and there are places that hold on to what's written, even when the writer's already crossed the last hill. That letter's not just hers, it belongs to the barn too.
The Bellows farm sat at the end of a road no one used anymore. 3 dead lamp posts, a rusted iron gate, and the barn, that old red structure, swollen by time, like it was struggling to breathe. When the wind passed through, it groaned, and, at night, it murmured, like an old man talking in his sleep. I grew up hearing that sound. At first it was like rain, just background noise, but later, it felt like whispers, calling. The night Thomas disappeared, a storm was rolling in from the south, the kind of sky that shifts color, gray, green, almost violet. Mama used to say that was a sign-bearing sky. And the barn seemed to know. My name is Margaret Bellows, and I write this with bones weary from seeing too much time and understanding too little. Thomas was my younger brother, 19 years old, with the whole world in his eyes. The kind of boy who'd disappear for 5 hours and come back with either a giant fish or an impossible story. The last time I saw him, he was wearing the blue shirt Grandma stitched by hand. Smiling, holding an old lantern, said he was heading to the barn to grab firewood before the storm rolled in and he never came out. The police came. Tracking dogs, boots in the mud. They tore through every beam, every floorboard, every inch of soil. Nothing, not a footprint, not a drop of blood. It was as if the barn had swallowed him. For 40 years, I waited for an answer, and when it came, it made no sense at all. It was October 12th, 1963. The storm came early that day, thunder hammering down like nails into the sky. Thomas ran off with the old lantern, said he'd grab firewood before everything got soaked. The barn was just 50 steps from the porch. I stood by the door, watching him disappear, into that strange gray light that always comes before the wind breaks loose. He went through the back entrance, the one that never quite shuts right. I waited. 5 minutes, 10, 20, nothing. I called his name, then I screamed it. My father grabbed his shotgun and a lantern and went in after him. All he found was the lantern, still lit, sitting on a pile of hay. No sign of a struggle, not a scratch. It was like Thomas had just set everything down and vanished. The police came, of course, said maybe he ran off, but no one runs barefoot. No wallet, no trail, not in that mud, not with the kind of rain that fell that night. And the strangest part, the hay where they found the lantern was bone dry. 40 years passed. The barn just sat there, still, but something was always wrong with it. The beams creaked when there was no wind. Dogs barked in the wrong direction, and sometimes, at noon, the shadow of the barn door stretched north. I sold almost everything over those years, except the house, except the barn, because some part of me still believed Thomas was in there. And then, on a summer morning in 2003, I heard footsteps on the dirt road. I looked out the window, and my heart almost stopped. It was him, same height, same face, same messy hair, and the same blue shirt. He stood at the gate, looked around like he'd gone out for firewood, and forgot where he was. Then he smiled and said,
"You still got the lantern?"
My hands shook when I hugged him, but his body was cold, not dead cold. Cold like something that's been too far from time. I asked where he'd been, what happened, but he spoke like a man waking from a dream.
There was thunder, then silence. The hay was dry, but it smelled like rain. There was a door that shouldn't have been there.
And at night, he'd disappear again. Always came back with straw on his boots, like the barn still called to him. One night, I decided to follow Thomas, pretended to sleep, waited, until I heard the door creak open. The sky was clear, but the barn had a cloud of its own, settled right over it. He slipped through the side door, the one that only locks from the inside. I waited a minute, then another, and then I opened the door, real slow. Inside, the barn was different, taller, deeper, like the walls had backed away from themselves. Thomas stood in the center, still, his eyes locked on something near the ceiling, something I couldn't see. but it cast a pale white light without a source. When I called his name, he turned his head slowly, like my voice was coming from far away. And then he disappeared. Not ran, not hid, not faded, just vanished. On the floor, just his coat, folded neatly and resting on top a pocket watch. Stopped at 3:17 a.m., the same time the lantern was found, 40 years ago. The next morning I went to the kitchen table. The letter I'd been writing for weeks, trying to stitch this madness into something that made sense, was still there, but something was different. It was finished, and the last line, I didn't write it. The handwriting was Thomas's, no doubt about it. Light, almost childlike, just like he used to write in his school notebooks. A single sentence.
Time stopped, because I stopped first.
I never saw Thomas again, but sometimes, at night, I hear footsteps in the barn, a young man's stride, steady, as if someone's counting every step, just to keep from getting lost.
Some places don't forget, Dave. Some places learn to wait. That barn, it doesn't just hold tools and dust. It holds time. Time that slipped out of somewhere it shouldn't have.
You saying he traveled through time?
I'm saying time sometimes stumbles. Maybe Thomas fell into a fold. Maybe he found a door that wasn't meant to open. Or maybe the barn just liked him. I once tried tracking the sun's shadow inside that place. Waited all day. The shadow never moved. And when night came, I wasn't quite the same anymore.
The boy, Thomas, you ever see him?
I did, but I don't know if it was him, or just time's way of reminding me he never really left.
Jack, if he really came back, why did no one else see him but his sister?
Maybe he only came back for her, or maybe no one else wanted to see.
And is he still there? I mean, here?
If he walked out of that barn, kid, maybe the barn walked into him. Some things come back, 'cause they're still looking for something.
The pocket watch stopped at 3:17. But sometimes, it feels like the time inside that barn never really stopped at all. After that, I tried to sleep. Just rest a little, make sense of everything. Hoped maybe I'd wake up the next morning and chalk it all up to exhaustion. Long trip, weird stories, dusty cellar air, but my mind refused to shut off. 4 letters. Now, each stranger than the last, each written by someone who shouldn't have been able to write them. No postmarks, no timestamps. Just names that echo through places. Time forgot. The widow, the cartographer, the pastor, the sister. They all lived in different towns, different eras. But somehow, Jack knew them. Not just knew about them. He remembered things no record ever showed. Faces, dialogues, even the weather. How he says the letters came with the house, but some of them feel like they were written for him. And that barn story, the one with Thomas, it felt too close, too personal, like Jack had walked those 50 steps to the barn himself, and maybe never fully came back. Could Jack be part of all this? More than just a storyteller? He always knows what to say, but never all of it. And tonight, I swear I saw that same symbol, the one from the widow's letter from Gallows Hill, carved faintly into the frame of my bedroom mirror, like it had always been there, waiting. I keep telling myself these are just stories, old letters, fables meant to scare kids and entertain tired old men. But then I remember something Jack said. Some things come back, 'cause they're still looking for something. Sound. Clock ticks once more, then silence. And now, I can't stop wondering, what if what they're looking for is me? There's a clock in Jack's house. Doesn't tick loud, but once you hear it, you never forget the sound. Last night, we talked about the 4th letter, written by a clockmaker, a man who claimed he built something that measures more than time. The strange part? The letter describes a clock that never stops running. And the worst part? Years ago, a strange old neighbor from the Ashwood ranch told me something I haven't forgotten. Jack's had that same clock, in the same spot, for 40 years.